Hello, everyone. This is Supreme Decisions, and you're now listening to the Supreme Decisions Legal Minute Podcast. Now, let's start off with the obvious. I haven't been on for, I want to say, at least 2 months. One of the things that has happened is I've done some relocating yet again. And you know me, I actually want to put out something that has substance, a little bit of quality, and I want to make sure that you're getting something from it. I'm not just sitting here and just rambling like I'm getting ready to do. But today's episode, or at least this one, is going to be one of just updating. You know, where we're at, where we come from, where we look to be, and how soon we plan to get there for the most part. Because you know, where there is no vision, the people shall perish. Now, if you've actually just started logging back into the YouTube, you can actually see that they're still suppressing a lot of my views, which is all right because we're on 40 different platforms now, or 45 to date. One of the biggest things that I'm noticing is that not only do we have to evolve with the times, but it seems like everybody's doing a podcast and everybody wants to do video, but nobody's giving very much substance. There's very few people that are out here actually educating the masses. And even with me, I found it interesting because every year I've done a podcast and Spotify puts out their numbers and how you've grown or how you haven't and what you've done and what you didn't do. One of the things that surprised me was I was the top educational podcast for Spotify this year. That blew my mind because I've had several meetings and I wanted to expound on where we're at and how we're doing things and how it's being done and how it's being perceived and all those good things. And I felt, because of the rut, that I needed something different. They were offering me something that was, I didn't have at least perceived. And I decided, you know what? I'm good where I'm at. Because I can create what it is that I need to do, but to actually get those numbers and see that in spite of not doing the amount of shows that I planned on doing, in spite of not putting out the amount of material I planned on putting out, I was still better than I was the year before. And what was even more profound was I was 500 times better than the original starting of the podcast. Those things, believe it or not, even with the support of Valerie Sine, she's been supporting the podcast every month with her monthly donation since the inception. And that actually says a lot. Because even when there was no material being put out, she was still supporting. And I want to say thank you for that. And all those that have actually been supporting the entire time that I've been putting out material, haven't been putting out material. And, because there are a few of you guys like Robin McMillan. Robin's been here, I believe, since 2018, 2019. My guy, Joshua, down in Dallas, he's that dude. He's been with me for the long haul. As well as someone that's been in the shadows. And that's Miss Lovett. But not just and that's again naming just a couple because there are others. There are a lot others. And not that their contributions are insignificant. It's the constant contact. It's the other things that are going along with it. And it's the making sure that we're able to keep going and keep growing, even when we don't see an opportunity for that to happen. Now, where we're at. The studio right now where I'm at, where I'm recording this, is, I want to say, we're about 98% complete. It actually finished, sooner than I thought it would. But it also took longer than I anticipated because, as most of you know, this year is the 10-year anniversary of the acquittal, where I represented my own interests. My brother Alicia represented his own interests in a RICO trial, and we got not guilty verdicts. And in the context of that, I want you to understand what that is. The two top counts, and they always use that. The two top counts was racketeering, influence, corrupt organization, and the second count was conspiracy to commit racketeering, influence, corrupt organization. Now, in total, there was 108 charges. Most of us have no real clue what that means, and that's why I actually went back and did kind of a short order series with Young Thug, because Young Thug had two top counts. He had, now I believe it's 64 additional charges that go under those two top counts, and the highest of that is racketeering, influence, corrupt organization. Because what happens is, Thug is the one with the money, and that's generally what they're looking for in a RICO case. But he has people that are from his childhood that are allegedly in the game. And with that being said, most people have no real clue of what that actually means or how that actually affects Thug. Well, in order for them to get one, they have to get others, but they have to follow the money. Now, there were things that were done after, the original video, after the other conversation I had regarding Young Thug that his lawyer has, taken place on. Now, do I think his lawyer listens to me? Absolutely not. Do I think someone around him listens to me? Absolutely. Because you don't just make moves that you weren't making before that are out of place just because. Always understand that. There's very little coincidence. And one of the things about this is the fact that it was 10 years ago, October 25th, 2012, 1:04 p.m. in the exact same place in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's one of those where I look back at where I'm at now and the evolution of where I'm going. Now, the great part about that is, again, if you're watching the videos, you see that the software is better. We now have not only shooting with iPhones, we're shooting raw video. We're shooting with the Canon now. We have better lighting. We also have color grading. Our videos look more cinematic. And I use the word "our" because, again, it's not just myself. All of you that are here listening are part of the Supreme team. All of you that are supporting are part of the Supreme team. And the merchandise that we're putting together, it's a slower process than I would like, but it's coming. Because there's going to be a store where you're going to be able to see me in some of the fits. You're going to see me at some of the events with this merchandise on. And you're going to be able to either purchase it off YouTube, or you're going to be able to purchase it directly off the Supreme Supply store. But that's just another entity in which we are all heading into. You also see that the videos are better quality. You're seeing better graphic design. All that comes from the donations and the investment, not only in myself, but in the Supreme Decision brand. You also are getting an opportunity to get ready to see more frequent videos. You're going to see more frequent live shows. Because what this is offering us a space in which we can operate and we can put out material. Now, one of the things we often talk about are the word of a police officer. Judge is just going to take the word of the police officer, and that's actually 90% of the time true. But I spoke about this on a different, I guess, platform. But I speak about it regularly here. The foundational part of everything I'm doing begins with the discovery, because things that are not requested, you cannot bring up later. But then when you're also dealing with understanding that you are the most powerful person in the courtroom, I think that's where people are looking at, because they're looking for a get out of this free or get out of this quick. Understand everything that you do has a process to it, including going to court, including filing motions, including defending yourself, because at some point you are going to have to look the devil in his eye, because he's got to set where your heart is. He's not just going to give you the win because you decide to fight back. He's got to see how much you are invested in fighting back. Because even when we talk about it, which is also a thing I hate, because people often ask me, well, if you were in this situation, what do you do? My response is, I give you two. I'm a hammer, so everything looks like a nail to me. So that's a bad example, because you are not me. I'm also the same guy that had my brother waterboard me. And for those of you that don't know what that means, when we were being indicted under RICO, we were being charged as domestic terrorists. My thought pattern was, because at that time, waterboarding was the torture of choice whenever you had quote-unquote terrorists, domestic or otherwise. So I had my brothers strap me to a chair, put a wet towel over my face, and then pour water on me while I was leaned backwards, because it simulates drowning. When we're talking about an eye for an eye, I'm willing to lose my eye to get yours. I am the monster of their own creation. And that also brings me to something else that I actually, hold dear to me. I was reading again the book Great Expectations, because I'm going to give you guys a little bit of me in this podcast right now. My mother, who passed away when I was very young, her favorite book was Great Expectation. A character in the book kind of resembles me very closely, and it's almost eerie, because that's actually my nickname. But what I loved was, I put up a quote, for those of you that follow me on Instagram. I put it in my story. And it states that I am the blade in which you created. You cannot now complain if you also feel the hurt. I am the monster that they created. They can no longer complain about what it is that their monster is doing. Because not only do I know the game, I understand the players and I understand how to play it. And I play it to win. I have no qualms with destroying someone else. Because again, if you're following me on these other platforms, you will see I quote people like the Prince. I talk about the art of war. Because the French says when you go after an enemy, you go after them wholly and to destroy them. I don't care about your house. You didn't care about mine. I'm going to give you that exact same energy you gave me. I am the effect of your cause. Understand this. Even when contacting me, because for whatever reason, I'm running into this a hell of a lot more than I should be. I'm going to give you the efforts that I tell everyone regarding the drowning man. You're going to have to participate in your own survival. I'm not going to force you to live. I'm not going to force you to the fight. And I'm not going to I'm not going to drag you kicking and screaming into a win. I'm going to give you advice. You have the choice to follow it because you are the one that suffers the consequences if you don't. I'm not going to force you to do anything that you choose not to do. However, you cannot call me to waste my time. I care less about your situation than you do. I'm not going to hunt you down to fight your fight. If you don't care, I don't care. I'm only as invested, maybe a tenth of what it is you are. But understand, I am fighting your case as if it's me on the line. I'm not just going to send you something because we agreed on Monday, you might get it Tuesday. But I'm not going to be one that just hands you something or a template just because. If you want templates, I will sell you a template, absolutely. If you want to win and want that motion tailored to your situation, give me a call. But the call isn't free. Because even Floyd talks about no one values anything they don't pay for. And the scariest thing is, people will call me to talk to me for free for hours. And then expect me to give them the world because they don't want to fight their own fight. That's not the guy that you're contacting. And it's sad that I have to say this yet again. But I'm actually getting ready to move on from that because those that are listening you're not concerned with that because that's not you. That's these other motherfuckers that are just doing things. But again, the podcast itself, my goal is to put out 25 shows before the end of the year. This is actually show number 1. And it's simply because I had to do this because I want to put it out at least on a weekly basis. We're going to have a lot more video podcasts. We're going to have more guests that come in and talk about the issues that they're having. We're going to have call-in shows. We're going to be doing the things that I've deemed necessary for us to all progress because there will be a lot of people that call in and have questions that you may have but may not want or have the answers that are necessary. And this offers that opportunity because, again, it's about weaponizing your defense. It's about putting you in a place to where you are able to defend yourself regardless of the situation. And I'm going to talk about, in the weaponizing of one's defense, I'm going to talk about the actual police officers because they're the first people we come in contact with in this system. Now, people are going to ask me, and I've been asked, that I've enjoyed answering, are there good police officers? I often kind of root to that because I even spoke about there being good officers and putting kind of a hashtag to that. Like, yeah, they're good officers, but. And I forget the actual adage that once you put a but behind any agreement, you mean you are actually disagreeing. But that actually allows me to regress to one thing. A friend of mine sends me a video with J. Cole. J. Cole is asked the exact same question. Now, at the time, I was not very familiar with J. Cole other than, he was a light-skinned dude with dreads and he played basketball. That's what I knew of J. Cole. However, he was asked. What caught my attention was the fact that J. Cole didn't just answer. He slid a seat back. He took a deep breath and he sat up upright. He answered the question like this. He said, I believe that there are good people that are cops. But how can they be good if the system itself that they are a part of is inherently bad? Yes, I pause for dramatic effect because I want you to think, because that's what this podcast is about. The idea and understanding that this is red pill time. If you are actually not trying to go deeper down the rabbit hole, again, stop listening, stop watching, stop going because I get deeper. But the context of that, if the system itself was not designed for law, it was designed to be bad. How can someone that becomes part of it be a good person? And that's an amazing thing to bring up because I know a lot of good people that wear the uniform. I speak about them all the time. But the system itself, even those good people are participating in bad acts. I spoke about police officers being revenue generators. People argued against it. Trevor Noah put out a video about it, and then all of a sudden it's not on YouTube, and all of a sudden the comments that come to me stop. I then go into the idea of the police officers resigning after a peaceful protester, 67 years old, is thrown to the ground and his head is bust open by police officers. And they think it's okay to step over him. I talked about the police officers that participated in the Blue Flu in Atlanta. I talked about after Officer Kelvin Dingle why are they not smiling at me? I gave you a 18-month span where I talked about 20 police officers just in the Atlanta area who committed heinous acts. But then you wonder why people are not smiling. We're talking about Tamir Rice. Tamir Rice was gunned down in literally a drive-by by police officers. The cop was fired months later and then rehired. How do we stop that? Because again, we talk about wanting a better system, but the system starts with us. Because I talked about that in the Tommy Sotomayor question podcast. We have to understand what our power is. We have to start using it. And yes, those who have great power have great responsibility. You have the greatest power of all because you have the ability to make a change. Because you are the one that are electing those that are speaking for you. You are the ones that are hiring these bastards that are going out and killing you. You're also the one that are calling them to kill you. So, if we want something different, we can't keep doing the exact same thing. When I talk about less than 5% of people actually fight back on cases, and the majority of them, almost baseball numbers, 78% of them are winning, that means they're losing 22% of the time. Say that one more time because most of you not really good at math. 78% of the time you're going to win. So that means only 22% of the time are you going to lose if you fight. Because they are not playing by their own rules. You can't argue with yourself. So how do we fight back? One of the steps is we talk about the Brady or the Giglio list. I'm actually calling it the Brady list, where I'm going to actually talk about these police officers and their violations and the dates, and I'm going to give you case numbers. Why? Because not only am I going to be able to look up these police officers and see the exact violation on the exact date against the exact person, those that are also fighting in Georgia, those that are fighting in Illinois, those that are fighting in Rhode Island, those that are fighting in California, those that are fighting in Florida, those that are fighting anywhere will now have access to that officer. Because we have officers that are in Michigan that aren't turning over to Brady. You have officers in California where they're destroying files after 60 days. I'm giving you now an opportunity to have something that lives beyond those 60 days. Let them have their BS. We're going to put it on blast. We're going to make sure that the people have the right to the information that they are supposed to have. Because again, this is not just something somebody's just doing in a basement. We're actually putting together a professional studio where we can sit down, we can do interviews, we can drink our yak, we can smoke our cohibas, and sit down and actually meditate on the word, either day or night, and understand what it is that we have to do to be victorious when we're facing these ordeals, whether we're guilty or not guilty. Because at the end of the day, they have to prove whatever it is that's said about you or said to you. The whole thing is now arming yourself with the ability to fight. Because I'm not just going to give handguns to children. I'm going to make sure you understand how to use them. Because even the other day I had a conversation with one of my buddies and it was funny. Because I was informing them that a lot of people don't see me with a lot of people. But I often tell people I wasn't always a good person. You'll read online something crazy as hell. And some of the stuff that I read online about me is almost laughable. Because most people that actually know me, they know it's BS. But if you don't know me and you read it, it becomes like, oh my God, why would they say that? Because they know a lie doesn't care who tell it. And the reason why a lie actually travels faster because it's easier. Because the truth hurts because it's heavy when it hits you. That's why it travels slow. It's a lot heavier than that lie. That lie doesn't have anything to stand on. The truth has to bring everything with it. That's why it takes longer to get you. But I want you to understand, no, I don't roll by myself. I have a bunch of hard heads. But I understand, again, I understand this thing because, again, it goes into another series that I'm doing. It's called The Principles of Chess. When you're talking about the leaders of men, the enemy of my enemy is not my friend. It's just a tool I use to destroy them both. When I say I run with a bunch of hardheads, I understand how and when to point my gun. I don't just go out and just assassinate somebody just all willy-nilly. Understand, everything I do is calculated. Everything that I'm going to guide you with is a calculation. It's a chess move. Anybody that plays chess understands there is an epic strategy that's taking place. That is what I'm teaching you. I am also doing what they call expectation management. In that managing, I'm offering you an opportunity not only to see what's possible, I'm offering you an opportunity to see what's plausible. Because a lot of times people will go out and just expect things that are unreal, literally, because they have no idea what it is they're doing and they're listening to somebody who's never done it. Because whenever I tell you something as arrogant as I am the best to do this, and your story, your guidance is just an opportunity for me to prove it. That's it. I want you to know I'm not going to talk to you like you're my buddy. We're not going to have friend time, because when it's your life on the line, you don't want a friend. You want an absolute killer, and I am that monster. So if you're calling me for anything else or guidance and all buddy and all, hey man, no, I don't give a shit about that, and you shouldn't either. Especially if you are looking at prison time. And understand, when you come to me just like you would someone else. You come with an expectation of winning, because if there's any doubt that's in your head, don't call me. Because everything I say to you is going to go contrary to your beliefs. Because everything that you've been taught is wrong. That's why I'm doing the Brady list. That's why I'm talking about weaponizing your defense. That's why I'm talking about motions for sanction. That's why I'm talking about the ethics issues. That's why I'm showing you that a police officer giving you instructions via Terry v. Ohio is a Fourth Amendment stop. Because they can't give you instructions absent a crime, which is why you have the right to remain silent and don't have to give them any information, even if there is a crime, because they have to prove everything that they said. That's why they look to tell you, oh, well, that's a secondary offense. Oh, well, you're resisting, you're not participating. I don't have to, because I can give you a slew of illegal arrests when someone's forcing you to ID yourself. But see, here's the thing. We then don't separate. We then excuse. That's when I talked about the podcast morality of we're moralizing murder. The morality of murder. Understanding. We give them excuses because they have a badge. Well, you are the one that gave it to them. That's your badge, not theirs. That's why they have a fiduciary duty. And whenever I talked about that in another podcast, I also want to get into, I'm going to talk about what a fiduciary duty is. I'm going to give you an eye-opening, I'm going to hit you so hard that you're not going to want to listen to me in 2023. That's what I'm getting ready to give you. When I'm giving you the Brady list, when I'm giving you all these acts, because again, you're going to say, because I know without a shadow of a doubt, somebody that you believe is a good police officer is going to end up on a Brady list. Because even, what was that, Jerry Williams, she was like, well, the Brady list should have an end. Okay, cool. When does the felony list have an end? Because when someone gets out of prison, they have that until they are dead. So why should a police officer that's on the Brady list ever come off it? Because if they were lying then, because again, you're going to hold it against someone that committed a crime when they were 18, because they were an adult, didn't have the money or understand expungement, that's now 55, served his time, done other things in his life or her life, they still suffering from what happened at 18. Why shouldn't the cop have that same duty when they are the ones that are taking an oath? They are volunteering their life to do the right thing. Why should they now, because they've done the wrong thing, be exonerated for it? Absolutely pause for a dramatic effect. But I want you to understand the context, because just one video gives you depth of what it is and where we're going. I'm not just skimming across this and just going to say, all right, well, yeah, 11 videos a month is good enough. No. 4 podcasts a month is good. No. I'm giving you something that's going to not only feed you today, it's going to feed your kids. I want you to understand that. This is not something that just, as Deontay White, I don't play law. Law is something I take a part in all day, every day. When I wake up, I go to sleep, I dream. I dream about how making this better is more effective, not only for me, but for you, for my children, and those that are behind me. It's not happiness that's displayed when you are quote unquote trailblazing. Because there are a lot of people that come out here and claim to do the things that I'm doing. The problem is they haven't done the things that I've done. They're walking a similar path, not the same. I don't have to bash any of them. And the great part is there's not enough of us actually doing it. Yeah, I actually paused again for dramatic effect because I want you to think about it. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to provoke thought. I'm here to change the programming. I'm here because you need me here. I am here because I need to be here. Now, I'm going to teach you things about when police officers are being questioned. They don't have the right to remain silent during interrogations or cross-examinations. Why? Because you do. Why would a police officer? But again, I'm going to get into those things. That's where these videos are going. Because I'm going to answer a lot of questions that most people have that don't want to ask. I'm even going to talk about the individual police officers that are doing these heinous acts that are being rehired. I'm going to talk about going after the police unions. You know, because that's what happened in Minnesota when 296 out of 300, and I believe 8 officers that retired had criminal records, but it was only a few. You know, you remember that? Remember those numbers? And I told you to go look those up so you can see that your boy didn't have to lie about it. When we're talking about 95% of officers that retired were criminals in Minnesota. But then we talk about how they're good cops and the bad cops are the few, yet the majority that retired were criminals. How can you be a good person if the system itself is inherently bad? J. Cole was on to something when he said that. Because most of us don't think about that in context. Because now you're going to go back and listen to that Minnesota PD Bad Police Officers podcast and you're going to be like, damn. How can there be a good cop when they're part of a system that's inherently bad? It was set up to be that way. And most people never get by the context of it. Because even in that bad police officer, you remember there was this guy I talked about in the morality of murder, how we exonerate police officers and we have those, yes, the police officer's always right. He shouldn't have been committing the crime. When we talked about the Minnesota Police Department executing a no-knock warrant that killed Amir Locke, and the officer lied about it. Then when the video came out, the police department lied about it. But again, these are good people that had 95% of those good people retiring that were criminals. They also didn't tell you that the house they went into where they murdered Amir Locke was the wrong house. Yeah, I'm going to say that one more time. The place where 95% of the cops that retired in a 1-year period. 296 cops that retired in a 1-year period. 296 cops out of 308 that retired in a 1-year period were criminals. The same police department executed a no-knock warrant on Amir Locke. They lied and it was at the wrong address. They couldn't smear Amir's character, so they stopped talking about it. They couldn't assassinate his character because he wasn't acting. He was actually a good person. He was actually not committing a crime. He was actually doing what he was supposed to be doing, and the cops weren't. We're going to talk about that. Because they tell you and they give you these hypotheticals, the could, would, possibles, and mights. Because they want to do minority reports on minorities in their report. I'm going to let you get the Tom Cruise reference in a second. But understand, they want to be pre-crime. They want to stop crime before it happens. You often hear about them talking on, we want to stop what they're thinking about, when they can't even prove what you're thinking about, because that's what intent is. That is what mens rea is. There has to be a guilty mind. That's why they lose 78% of the time. But they want you to believe that it's right. FBI actually states that a police officer makes a mistake 3 times out of every 4 arrests. I'm going to say that one more time. The FBI report, so you don't even have to take my word, states a police officer makes a mistake 3 times out of every 4 decisions. But we want to give a habitual mistake maker the benefit of the doubt every time. But that's what we're going to talk about, because I want you to understand this is why I'm here. Sometimes you have to pull the curtain back just so you can see what it is that you should be seeing. Because when I ask you, can you hear what I hear? Can you see what I see? Can you feel what I feel when I talk about this? The reason why I don't do a lot of videos is because I don't want to give you the angry black guy. I don't want to give you the stereotype. But I'm going to ask you in advance, please forgive me, because that's my passion talking. And yes, God did. Hove did. Because sometimes I feel like Louis Farrakhan when he's talking to Mike Wallace. I need you to just keep quiet when you're talking to me about someone that is constantly making a mistake that I should give the benefit of the doubt to. Because I can't fuck up on fries 3 times out of 4 and expect to keep my job at McDonald's. But we're told by the FBI, not Richard, not Supreme, we're told by an actual governing body that they are wrong often. They are wrong more often than not. Yes, I pause for dramatic effect because I think you just need to keep quiet. But for everybody else, please forgive me because this is my passion talking. Because I'm going to start putting my heart into these podcasts. I'm going to put my soul into these podcasts. But I want you to understand, everything I'm doing is not just for me. It's not just for you. It's for those that are behind us. I don't have to get all the way there. I'm going to show you where it's at, though. I want you to understand, this is not going to be anything quick. Because when I talked about this, 4 years ago, 2000, or what was it, 5 years ago now, September 2017, when I told you that this is going to be a process. When you watch me on the radio and I say, yeah, I got 1,000 videos, this is going to be a process. At least, that was my word, at least another 1,000 videos. Understand that wasn't an exaggeration. That was because I was looking at something then. I saw something back then. Now I'm telling you, yes, we're going to eclipse 1,000 easily. Easily. Because whenever I started putting together the 100, it evolved. But then it started to come back to full circle. It went right back to where it began. Everything that you do has a beginning, has a middle, has an end. Everything you do is going to come full circle because a lot of times whenever you're doing something, that understanding completion and the whole numbers, I'm going to get into different things of that context, of that nature, of that being, because the evolution of the mind itself is circular. The evolution of the world itself is circular. The evolution of you, your being, is circular. Because as you were born, you will die. There will be as they say, your peak. You're going to get to your peak, and then you're going to start to de-escalate. You have to understand where your de-escalation begins and ends. Because as there was a time that you were not able to take care of yourself, there too will be another time that you will not be able to take care of yourself. What if you now have the opportunity, the vision, the mindset, the free will, the exercised, applied application of knowledge in life to do that? That's what I'm here for. I'm even talking about putting together a series that's going to be aired on Netflix and many other, again, leading platforms. These things are designed to not only give you context, but it also gives you an easier medium in which to view me, to understand me, to get deeper to the connections of me. Because I'm going to end with this for right now, because the next one is going to be more educational. I talk to my children often, and one of the things I told them is, don't take me for granted. You have me here right now. I'm not going to be here always. Michael Jordan is sitting in your house. the greatest of all time, you have access to right now. Don't wait till it's too late to have questions. Ask your questions now. Make your investments in your time. Make your investments in your life, your studies, your guidance, your direction right now. Take advantage of me right now. Because if you take me for granted, it's going to be your loss. All of us have a finite time here. I have less wake-ups on the back end of this thing than I do in front of me. And right now, I'm on the back end of this thing. So understand, every day you have an opportunity. Every day that you choose to wait. Every day that you choose not to make the call. Every day that you choose to prolong something. Procrastination will kill you. Take advantage of me right now. This is the time. This is the place. And I am supreme. Out.